This is Larry Culpepper, inventor of the college football playoff. Goes without saying that I know about a good idea or two when it comes to college football. And the best idea out there is to subscribe to the Championship Drive podcast in the Listen tab of your ESPN app.
You're talking about doing whatever it takes to get through the pain to play on Sundays.
Currently, the NFL bans the use of cannabis for any reason.
I think of it as a medicine more than a drug.
In my opinion, there is no place in the NFL for this.
This is a change that needs to happen.
Football is the dangerous thing here, not marijuana.
And that'll do it. Texas Southern has won.
Their last home game was last season. They have not had a home game yet this year.
Texas Southern, open look for three again.
Life out of a suitcase, and oh, by the way, going to Class 2.
Oh, come on!
It is a grind for this team.
This is Outside the Lines. Now, sitting in for Bob Lee, Ryan Smith.
1 week ago today, the country elected a new president and voted in scores of senators and congressmen, all of which could fundamentally change the landscape of America. But there was another much less publicized set of votes last week that could signal for the sports world. Last Tuesday, California, Nevada, Maine, and Massachusetts approved marijuana for recreational use by adults, making that a total of 8 states plus Washington, D.C., approving this use of the drug. Add that to the now 28 states that permit the use of medicinal marijuana. Now, these changes could have an impact on the NFL even. According to the NFL and NFL.com report, several teams are in favor of reducing the penalty for pot use in the league. The report added that in conversations with 10 team owners and executives speaking anonymously, marijuana use could be a key issue when the CBA is renegotiated. Some of these owners were open to getting rid of pot suspensions for players, while others thought it sent the wrong message. But even the hint of decriminalizing pot in the NFL would represent a sea change in a league long known to take a harsh stance on its use by its players. NFL stars like Josh Gordon, Marcell Dareus, and Martavius Bryant are all serving lengthy suspensions due in part to marijuana use. For a growing number of players, the issue isn't about being able to chill out with a blunt whenever they want. It's about managing the pain that comes with a brutal game.
I played in the NFL for 7 seasons. I've had a laundry list of injuries from head to toe. I'm in a great deal of pain every day of my life.
Eugene Monroe, now an advocate for permitting medicinal marijuana use for NFL players, says where pain meds didn't work, pot did.
I've been on a steady course of drugs almost daily so I can continue to play. The stories are sad about how players went down a dark path. Players talk about taking dozens of Vicodin on a daily basis.
He's far from alone. Former defensive lineman Sean Smith, like many players, is still dogged by injuries sustained in the NFL.
It's tough. It's tough getting up in the morning, getting out of bed with my bones cracking, always aching. It's hard sometimes. I can't even play with my kids, and they are very active in sports, and I have 3 girls, and I can't do certain activities unless I have that to get my body going and moving around. Like you say, Eugene, neck is cracking and all that. I go through the same thing. And I played 10 years, especially the guys that play in the trenches. We battle, and our body's in really a lot of pain. And it's funny when you go to a regular doctor, now that you're not seeing an NFL doctor, they're like, ooh, I can only imagine how hard your body go through. Oh, man, you're in bad shape. You need this, you need that. But nobody wants to keep taking all these pain medicine, and it's not helping you. It may cure the problem for maybe a little second, but then after that, I don't want to have no surgery.
And former offensive lineman Eben Britton believes many players use cannabis during games to play through the pain.
I mean, you're talking about, playing, doing whatever it takes to get through the pain to play on Sundays.
Yes,
and if it's about taking a handful of Vicodin, a couple anti-inflammatories, maybe throw an Adderall in there.
The Toradol, don't forget the Toradol shot.
Of course, Sean. You know the Toradol days when we were getting the shots. I mean, towards the end of my career, they started outlawing the shots and only giving guys pills. I mean, for me, the wreckage that causes on the interior of your body, what that's doing to, your lifespan. When you look at what cannabis is as an alternative to all that, I mean, that's just the ground floor of what this plant can provide.
So why can't players use it, even for medicinal purposes? We reached out to the NFL for this story, who told us their top priority is health and safety and that they are committed to increasing safety for football players. But however, medical experts have not recommended making a change or revising our collectively bargained policy and approach related to marijuana, and our position on its use remains consistent with federal law and workplace policies across the country. The NFL Players Association seems to be taking a different tack, announcing it will form a committee to study the use of pot for pain management. But the Players Union does acknowledge it takes two to tango, that both the NFL and the Players Association would have to agree on a new policy if the union study yielded mutually beneficial results. So could high times be coming to the NFL where pot could be legal for medicinal or even recreational purposes? And considering the NFL's position on drug use over the past few decades, is this nothing more than a pipe dream? Let's welcome in George Atala, the NFLPA's Assistant Executive Director of External Affairs, and also bring in Cliff Cluey, a former NFL player and advocate for allowing players to use marijuana. Gentlemen, welcome. George, let me start with you. You and the NFLPA are now studying this issue. How likely is it that we will see a future where the NFL and the NFLPA will agree to let go of suspensions for the use of marijuana?
Well, I think it's certainly trending in that direction, despite the fact that we have a long way to go before the policies get changed. I mean, we have a couple of hurdles. One is the legal national hurdle. Not every state has changed their laws and their legislation to allow for recreational use. And the second one is a collective bargaining hurdle, where we have to sit down with the NFL and collectively bargain any changes to the policies as we did in 2014. I think the trend is certainly heading in that direction, but rather focus on the recreational use. Our union is focusing on how we deal with pain management and looking at issues that plague our former players, what happens to them post-game and post-career.
And Chris, you heard George there talking about pain management. It's one of the big issues in all of this. Many people think about players using marijuana and they think, oh, guys just want to hang out and smoke whenever they want. But have you seen up close the issue of pain management here and that this could be necessary for guys sustaining debilitating injuries while playing the game?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, of the guys that I played with, I'd say probably 50 to 60% used cannabis, and about half of them were recreational, and about half of them were for pain management. I mean, when you look at the damage that guys take out on the field on a daily basis, you need something to get through the day. You need something to get through the year. And I think a lot of guys have seen that prescription painkillers and opioids, they tend to have a much more lasting effect than using cannabis to deal with their pain. And what I would like to see is the NFL to actually, once this does become federally legal and you don't have issues with it being a Schedule I drug anymore, I want the NFL to, take the lead on this and say, hey, if this can help our players, if this can help our product and sort of mitigate some of the damage these guys are taking, we should be making these studies. We should be collecting this data and performing science to figure out what's the best way to use this product.
Chris, have you had to use it to help with injuries?
Yeah, I smoked when I played. Sometimes it was recreational. Sometimes it was because, I took a pretty hard hit on a punt return or something like that. I mean, and let's be frank, I'm a punter. I don't take nearly as much damage as the other guys do. And so, if I had days where it's like, man, my body really hurts, I need something to help me out, I can't even imagine what it's like for like an inside linebacker or a fullback or someone like that. So it definitely does help. And really, I think what we need to figure out is how much does it help? And can this replace prescription painkillers? Is this something that's used as a supplement alongside prescription painkillers? All that can only be done if you collect data and study it, and we need to start doing that.
And George, there's this thought of, hey, even if it becomes legal in many states, or even if there's an agreement to maybe use it in certain states where it's legal for different purposes, what kind of message would that send from a league that has in many times tried to make the point of, we don't want to send a message that we're allowing our players to use drugs, that we endorse that? And there's a lot of folks out there who think, whether it's legal or not, I don't want other people seeing NFL players smoking weed, doing drugs, anything like that.
Well, which is why the focus of our committee that we'll be announcing here in the next couple of weeks is not tied to an individual substance. We're more looking at the broader issue of pain management, and if marijuana is a substance that, in fact, as Chris mentioned, can alleviate pain and replace some of the other dangerous alternatives like opioids, which are easily addicted, which players can easily be addicted to. I think that's going to be our main focus, is what is causing the pain beyond the things that you see on a regular basis. Is there a better treatment for that pain that players are going through on a daily basis? And then, if it's chronic in nature, are there other substances that are safer and more effective at dealing with it than anything that we have on a prescription basis, or frankly, even marijuana? I mean, we may decide, or the research may show as we move forward with this committee, that marijuana is not the solution to some of this, and something else may pop up that's a better, more effective prescription to that issue.
So you're keeping an open mind in a sense. Your study is about trying to figure out what it is that could work best for players who are suffering from these serious injuries.
Yeah, and I think, looking at it purely from a recreational, social taboo issue doesn't really advance our purpose as a union, which is to really help our active and former player community, and that's where we want to be.
Okay, so Chris, it's an interesting point, right? If the Players Association looks at this and finds, you know what, I don't think cannabis is really doing a lot to help players as compared to prescription drugs or other opportunities or other types of medicine like that, then what happens? Do we then stop and say, let's try to find something else?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what science is all about. You make a hypothesis, you say, okay, here's what I think is going to happen, and then you test it. And right now, we haven't tested it. We have our hypothesis that we think CBD and, its combination with THC inside cannabis can help players with pain relief, but we don't know for sure. And George might be right. The research might show that cannabis doesn't work, or it doesn't work enough to be worth using. And if that's the case, then we should absolutely start searching for other substances that can be used to help players. Because, let's be frank, a lot of players, when they're done playing in the NFL, they're broken, either physically or mentally. And the league makes a lot of money off their backs. And, players get paid well, but at the same time, if you can't walk at age 45, I mean, that's a pretty high price to pay. If you lose your mind, that's a pretty high price to pay for being someone's entertainment. And so I think, really what everyone wants is, we just want to know. Like, we want to be able to do science and know, okay, is this good or is this bad? Can we use this? As opposed to just saying, go ahead.
It's a good point, but what about, the other point people make is, what about addiction? We talk about how painkillers are addictive, people talk about how marijuana is addictive. If this is a better solution, what about the fact that it also, for many people, is an addictive drug?
Well, then I would question why the NFL has massive sponsorships with alcohol companies, because alcohol can also be addictive. So, if people are going to pull out the morality argument, I mean, let's go after Bud Light then. Let's go after Coors. I mean, those are huge sponsors of the league, and I think it's kind of hypocritical to say, yeah, we're okay putting tons of money into beer and spirits, but marijuana is the line too far. We can't work with that at all.
Okay, George, have time for a quick question for you, just a couple seconds here. Even if you find that the results show that marijuana is beneficial for players, could help more than anything else than for pain management, what are the chances the NFL is going to agree to take suspensions off the table for that?
Well, we can only control what we can control, and obviously we're having this discussion because of a report that popped up over the weekend that said NFL owners are open to the idea of changing the policies altogether. It's hard for me to, suggest what the NFL may or may not do, but I know we have a job, and that's to follow the science and the research and advocate on behalf of our members. And I think step one is understanding what the universe of science and research says on this issue of pain management. And then if we end up at a place where, yes, indeed, cannabis/marijuana is the most effective use, then it's our job to advocate on our players' behalf to change the policy. And that's just the paradigm of labor and management. It's the position that we've always found ourselves in on these issues, and it's one that we embrace.
Well, it's a conversation that will no doubt continue. Chris, George, thank you so much. We appreciate it. A follow-up now to our recent reports on colleges addressing inappropriate texting by athletes. Columbia University has suspended its wrestling team from competing while it investigates apparent lewd messages sent by team members. Now, those messages are reported to contain obscene, homophobic, and racially insensitive language. Earlier this month, Harvard canceled the season for its men's soccer team when similar posts were publicized. Well, rolling up the miles, college basketball teams playing schedules that see them not going for a home game for months at a time. The reasons why are just ahead.
Outside the Lines. is brought to you by Rent-A-Center. Magic happens here.
This is Larry Culpepper, inventor of the college football playoff. Goes without saying that I know about a good idea or two when it comes to college football. And the best idea out there is to subscribe to the Championship Drive podcast in the Listen tab of your ESPN app.
If you play a sport in college, chances are you're going to travel. And depending on the sport and the school, those trips could be short or they could feel like you're flying to France every other week. So some of it comes from teams willing to fill the schedule for large schools. These so-called cupcake games in Division I football and basketball are often one-sided affairs, at least on the scoreboard. So why would the invited guest play the games? Well, the answer is usually money. The University of Tulsa Athletic Department received a payment of $1.03 million for their football game at Ohio State. It was the most lucrative road contest in program history. The final score, Ohio State 48, Tulsa 3. They're hardly alone, but a couple of basketball programs are attempting to build a name and finance their programs with games like this, racking up schedules that include playing their first 16 games on the road. Texas Southern won't play a home game until January 14th of 2017. A string of road games that included back-to-back games in Arlington, Texas and Dover, Delaware that tipped off at 17 and a half hours and 1,300 miles apart. In all, they will play in 10 different states before that home opener. Now, head coach Mike Davis says it helps his team learn to win in tough atmospheres, build a postseason resume, and finance the program. The Tigers have appeared in the NCAA tournament 2 of the last 3 seasons on the strength of their automatic bids for winning the SWAC tournament. For Mississippi Valley State, the season opens with 14 road games. The Delta Devils will travel to West Virginia, Washington State, Indiana, Arizona, and Iowa, just to name a few, all non-conference games. And all of that before ever hosting a home game. So let's discuss the trend with a couple people who know it pretty well, I would say. Mike Davis, current head coach at Texas Southern, where he has led them to 2 NCAA tournament appearances. He's also a former head coach at Indiana and a player at Alabama. And David Ridpath is an associate professor of sports administration at Ohio University. He's also the former president of the Drake Group. All right, Coach Davis, so I guess the biggest question a lot of people would ask is, why? Why would you travel to all these road games and sacrifice for your kids all this time on the road?
Well, we spend a lot of time on the road, but we're only going to miss 5 days of class this year with our schedule because a lot of our games in December. And it gives our players an opportunity to go to arenas and play places that never will be able to play. A lot of people think we do it for the money, but if you see our facilities, we have a great locker room. Our arena is really nice. We don't really need the money to support other programs. I do it because it gives our players a chance to go play other places, and it also gives us a chance to get ready for our conference because in the SWAC, you have to win the conference tournament to get a bid. If you win the regular season, then you get a chance to go to the NIT, and that's my main focus is to give our kids a chance to go play at Arizona, Baylor, LSU, a lot of arenas that they will remember for the rest of their lives and also get a chance to play in the tournament.
Coach Davis, how do the kids react to this? I mean, are they walking around with bags under their eyes thinking, oh my gosh, I've just come off a 17-hour straight, 17-hour break of playing games, 1,300 miles of travel that one weekend? How are they reacting to it?
Well, we have 13 players on our team, and 12 of them think they're pros. And I always tell them a lot of guys want to be a pro, but you don't want to turn pro. So let's go play back-to-back games and see how you feel on that second day. And I came really close to playing Kentucky on Friday.
So you're going to add in another
UTA
game
on Saturday and Delaware State on Sunday. But I didn't want to miss the class because Veterans Day was that Friday, so I didn't want to miss Thursday of classes, so we just played back-to-back.
Ooh, 3 straight days of games like that with that kind of travel. Unbelievable. So, David, let's talk about this avenue. You heard Coach Davis talk about they're only missing 5 days of class, but what does this do to the students, the student-athlete, really? How does it affect them in the classroom and with their studies, in your opinion?
Well, I certainly would be a little concerned. Coach Davis answered an important question for me is, how many classes are they missing? On the surface, it probably looks a lot worse than it is. 5 classes can still be a lot. And as a faculty member now, I certainly would have, some concern. I think just from some other practical aspects, though, just the time being able to spend on campus anyways as a student, being able to experience life as a college student, which is what is supposed to be the main priority. But I'd also be concerned from my putting on my former administrative hat, just from a team branding perspective and being able to get even people there at Texas Southern or in Itta Bena, Mississippi to see the team and know the team. To go on the road that long, to me, seems to be a little bit more of the antithesis of that. But certainly as the NCAA is looking at time demands and other things on athletes, a 16-game road trip to me just doesn't seem to be the thing that we want to do. I think that there's a better way.
Coach Davis, what do you think about that? Is there a better way?
Well, we've had 14 scholarship players to play for me since I've been here, and 12 have graduated. One guy needed one class, and the other guy needed like 12 hours to graduate. And our situation is different. If we have a home game, we may have 150 people there. I've done it before here at non-conference. They're only going to come out to our conference games, and we'll spend a large majority of December on the road traveling when school is out. So there's no students here. Our guys are playing December the 3rd, December the 10th, 12th. And those days is no schools going on, so they're not really missing anything. And other programs are different from
Coach,
ours.
let me jump in on you, David, real quick. Are there other ways to help the kids on the road with their studies? Coach mentions tutoring, other things that can happen. What would you recommend for kids?
Well, certainly there are, and I do want to give Coach Davis some credit here in trying to minimize missed classes, and I do understand what he's trying to do, but I still think it's very tough to really replace that time on campus and certainly that time in the classroom. However, with the age of technology, there are certainly many things that can be done on the road, much more than, say, when Coach Davis and I were in college. And so there are those advantages that can help minimize some of the issues. But I still am a big proponent of trying to keep the kids on campus as much as possible. And like I said, the trend is to try to get away from long road trips like this and get more to where the kids are actually spending more time on campus. And that's what I support.
It sounds like both of you are looking for the same goal, putting the students and the student athlete first. Coach Davis, David, thank you so much for joining us, both of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Converse with Outside the Lines on social media. We stream live each day. There's original content online. Register on the ESPN app or our OTL podcast.
Hey, college football fans, I'm Matt Schick. Injury has been added to insults for the Wolverines and Huskies. We break that down, play the what-if game, and chat with Pitt coach Pat Narduzzi on the latest Championship Drive podcast.
Tonight we have the 4 of the best teams in the nation at the State Farm Championship Classic. At 7 Eastern, Kentucky and Michigan State square off, and then it's number 1 Duke taking on the Jayhawks. Both games on ESPN, also streaming live on the ESPN and Watch ESPN app. And after the games, Sports Center at night. Scott Van Pelt, he's going to have college hoop highlights, NBA, NHL, college football, NFL news, all of that coming up. All right, so the best thing you could say about Rutgers football this year, there's only 2 games left. Yeah, it's been that bad for the Scarlet Knights. And, only 2 wins in 10 games, 0-7 in the Big Ten play, shut out 3 games by a total of 185-0. You get the picture. The season has gone to the dogs. So what do? NJ.com has an answer. It decided after the team's latest loss that it was time to turn to the puppies. Check this out. That's what you get for a D grade in passing. All right, that's all we have for tonight. Keep watching Outside the Lines. College Football Live is next.
Louisville heads to Houston to face a dangerous Cougar team on Thursday night.
47 yards right up the middle.
Coverage begins at 7 Eastern on ESPN and on ESPN Radio. Presented by Dr. Pepper.